Hello and welcome to this third learning video with me, James, working towards our exciting massed music event this coming Friday, just 2 days away now, in which we're going to perform two songs that I wrote for the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, Haul Away and Out in the Blue. And at the end of our performance on Friday, we're going to be hosting a live Q&A event where I'll be able to take any questions that you might have about the two pieces that I wrote, about what it's like to work with a symphony orchestra and anything else that's occurred to you over the course of this project. And you can tweet those to BSO and their Twitter handle is @BSOrchestra. And if you want to email a question instead, you can email jcraig@bsorchestra.co.uk. But there's not going to be any kind of massed event at all unless we make sure that we know what we're performing. And I thought today we would start off by remembering Haul Away. So, just a recap with you that Haul Away goes. Away, haul away, rock and roll me over. Away, haul away Joe. Away, haul away, rock and roll me over. Away, haul away Joe. And that's the folk song, the sea shanty that we sing at the start. It's the first thing that we do with the music. And then after that, we go straight into some body percussion, and the body percussion goes. Obviously, when you do the body percussion, you're not going to be doing all of the... I mean, maybe you will, but you don't have to. I was just doing that to help me keep in time. And of course, what's going to be helping you to keep in time is that in the performance, you'll be able to hear the orchestral backing track. There's just two other things in Haul Away that I'll just remind you about. One of them is that we do a group stamp, and you're going to watch your leader for that. And the other thing is that we sing... My Bonnie lies, and we do some Makaton signing for that. We do My Bonnie lies over the ocean, so bring back my Bonnie to me. And if you need a reminder about that, there are additional learning resources on the BSO website off the Sea, Voyages and Hope page. When I was writing Haul Away, I deliberately kept the bits of music that we do really short so that I could turn the whole piece into a listening game. So in between you singing, you can listen out for lots of different music. But there are other folk melodies that are sea themed or sea related that are woven into the fabric of the piece. So you can listen out for My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, which we know about. You can listen out for What Should We Do with the Drunken Sailor. You can listen out for Dance to Your Daddy, My Little Laddie, Dance to Your Daddy, When the Fish Comes In. That fantastic North folks song, sea shanty from the northeast. And also the Sailor's Hornpipe. Now, I organise the music as I'm writing it down on my computer. I talked in one of my earlier videos about how I sit at the piano and I write the music first of all. But once I'm writing it down for the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra to be able to play, I need a more powerful processing tool. And I use my computer to do that. Obviously the sounds on the computer aren't as good as the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, but they give me a sense of what I'm working towards, and I find that really useful. In a minute, we're going to have a look on my computer and I'm going to talk you through how the Haul Away score is made up. But before we do that, I'd like to take the symphony orchestra apart. We tend to divide the symphony orchestra into 4 groups or families. And before we look at what those 4 different groups or families are, let's start with the woman or the man who stands at the centre of it all, holding everything together. This person's called the conductor, and they help the orchestra to know when to start, how fast to play, and they also organise and structure all of the rehearsals, kind of a bit like I'm doing here when I'm helping you to practice the different bits and showing you when to sing and join in. So from starting with that conductor, we're going to work outwards and meet the different families in the orchestra. So the first family we meet are the strings, and the strings surround the conductor, and they include the smallest string instruments, the violins, and there are lots of them because they tend to make a slightly less loud sound than the larger instruments. So we have lots of the smallest violins. Then we've got slightly bigger than the violins, the violas. Bigger than the violas still, we've got the cellos, and the bigger than the cellos, we've got the double basses. We have a smaller number of double basses than we have violins. Behind the strings sit the woodwind section, and the woodwind section make sound using breath, using air. And the woodwind instruments all used to be made out of wood. 3 of the ones in the modern orchestra are still made out of wood. So that would be the oboes, the clarinets, and the bassoons. And they have bits of metal keys on their instruments so that the players can play a larger range of notes more easily. The flutes are now made completely out of metal, but in the olden days when they were first around, they would have been made out of, initially they would have been made out of bone, but then wood. Behind the woodwind, we've got the brass section. Now, sometimes you'll see in a live performance screens that separate the brass from the woodwinds or whoever's sitting in front of them. And that's because the brass section are loud, and that's why we sit them further back in the orchestra. And in the brass section, we've got, in a modern symphony orchestra, we've got French horns, trumpets, trombones, and of course the mighty tuba, the biggest brass instrument in the orchestra. And behind the brass section, the percussion. Now, the percussion have the greatest range of different instruments of all of the sections, and what brings them together is that percussion instruments all make a sound by being struck or shaken, so hit or shaken. So we're thinking about, lots of instruments that you know already. We're thinking about egg shakers or maracas. We're thinking about drums, woodblocks, triangles, cymbals. But we're also thinking about tuned percussion instruments. So I know Sam in her film showed you her kind of school glockenspiel, and you might have played one of those. Those are instruments which have metal notes to make their sound. So there are glockenspiels and xylophones in the orchestra, and marimbas, and those are pitched percussion instruments. And then sat somewhere in between those two groups are the kettle drums or timpani, and those are drums which we can tune so that they can play either a melody or more often a bass line. And I'm going to talk about all of those different sections in relation to Haul Away when we get onto my computer and have a look inside and see how it all fits together. But before we do that, before we get onto the computer, could we practice being the conductor? So give your hands a little shake and shake them up in the air. Shake them down low or rub them together. And what we're going to do is all together, we're going to do a ha. See if you can do it with me. Here it goes. Ha. 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 So the thing about the ha, if you want to play it wherever you are with other people who are near you, is that it's important to use your breath to show when the ha's going to happen. It's dead easy to catch people out by doing just a quick karate chop without letting anybody know. But if you want to bring everybody with you, which is what a conductor really does want to do, then you need to use your breath. Now, when we are thinking about conducting, it is the ha. The ha is the most important thing. So we've got the intake of breath and then the downbeat. So just practice that with me without the ha now. So we're going to go, and then we're going to go, and again. Fantastic. Now, in a piece that is where each bar is divided into 4, which is lots and lots of music that we've got. So Haul Away is a good example. It goes, away, haul away, rock and roll me over, away, haul away, haul away, Joe. That's how we're dividing up each bar into 4 beats. When we're conducting, we breathe in and we go 1, we go across our body, we go away from our body, and we come back up. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4. See if you can join in with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how a conductor would show the orchestra how fast to play or how slow to play. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about conducting, because in the next section of this film, I'm going to be jumping between looking at my computer and talking about Haul Away and the different instruments that I used to play the different sections of the music. And we're going to be jumping into a video of the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra playing Scheherazade, which you might know if you watched some of Sam's Scheherazade creative composition videos. And on those Scheherazade videos, you're going to see the conductor cam with Frank the conductor, and you're going to be able to see everything that Frank shows to the orchestra to make it play so beautifully and so expressively. And now you know a little bit about some of the tools that Frank was using to do that. I brought you up nice and close to my computer screen so that you can hear the sounds that I hear when I'm sat working at my desk with the music coming out of my speakers. And we're going to go inside the computer now, and you're going to be able to see what I see, and hopefully you'll be able to hear what I hear as we take a little tour through Haul Away. So I've opened up Haul Away, and I'm on the first page of the full score, which is what Frank the conductor or whoever else was conducting this piece would be able to see. And what you can see is that on this first page we've got the title, and then down the left hand side, and I'm just going to scroll up, down the left hand side you can see all of the different instruments who play in this piece. So we've got the woodwinds up at the top, then the brass, the percussion are in the middle, the harp, I forgot to talk about the harp. The harp sits in the string section. We've also got a piano part in this piece. That sits in the percussion section because of the way that the piano makes a sound, with hammers hitting strings and the strings at the bottom. And so that's a lot of information, and Frank needs to know all of that information when he's conducting. So he'll be looking at a similar thing in Scheherazade with all of the different parts, but actually individual instruments only need to see their part. And this is the part that the cello section look at. And I'm going to take you through some illustrations of the 4 different sections of the orchestra, and we're starting with the strings. So I have highlighted here a section of music, and I think you're going to recognise that melody when you listen to it. You see it starts in the middle, then it jumps up, then down, following the contours of the melody. And I wonder if you have spotted what melody the cello's playing here. Well, here it comes. So, the cellos were playing Away, Haul Away, rock and roll me over, away, haul away, Joe. And if you've never looked at music written down like this before, I hope you can see that it actually makes a lot of sense. There are the 5 lines, that's what we call the stave, and the little dots show the player how high or how low the melody is. Now I can go out from there and back to the full score, and we're going to have a little look and a listen to what that cello melody sounds like. Here's the whole orchestra playing in that section. And that moment that I've just stopped the music at is where the body percussion starts. And here is a snippet of Frank conducting Scheherazade to give you a flavour of what the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra string section sounds like. The cellos are in there, obviously, and they're playing this undulating accompaniment down at the bottom of the string section with a melody played by the violins sat on top. It sounds like this. Okay, let's stay with the Scheherazade for a moment, because I want you to listen to the oboe playing the same melody that we've just heard the violins play. And in this excerpt, which comes towards the end of the first movement of Scheherazade, the accompaniment is being played by the clarinet. Let's have a listen and watch Frank's conducting. Now we're going to go back inside my computer and have a look at what the computer thinks an oboe sounds like. So I've opened up the oboe 1 part, and oboe 1 does a mixture of doing chords with the rest of the woodwind and playing melodies. We're going to have a look at the middle of Haul Away and the moment where we first hear this melody played by the oboe. Here we are back in the full score, and that's what the oboe line looks like in the sea of other parts that are in the orchestra. And in this section, the other things that are going on are this. So I'm just highlighting a line here that the trumpet plays, and let's go into the trumpet part, and I can zoom into the trumpet and play you this melody. So back in the full score, perhaps you can see that that shape is matched up top here in the 2 flute parts and the piccolo, and the second trumpet part as well. This is what that sounds like. Now I can add in the oboes as well. So what I've done now is to highlight the oboes and the cor anglais, who are playing My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, and the trumpets and flutes and piccolo, who are playing the Drunken Sailor melody. And this is what they sound like all together. So now if you look really closely, I've zoomed out from where we were looking at the woodwinds and the brass, and this is the whole of the score now in Haul Away at this moment. And I'm going to press play and you can look at the whole orchestra playing and listen out and see if you can hear the My Body section and the Drunken Sailor section. And there we were, with the whole orchestra in, and you, in our performance, joining back in with... The trumpets, who were playing the Drunken Sailor, are in the same brass section as the trombones and tubas, and these low brass instruments take on the job of representing the evil sultan in Scheherazade, the melody Sam played you in her percussion workshop. Here it is again, this time with Frank conducting the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra. Back in Haul Away, here are those lower brass instruments playing a bass line in the confrontational stamp section in the middle. We'll listen to just the trombones and tuba first of all. Now in this section they're working in a team with the percussion instrument, the timpani. Let's listen to the timpani playing exactly the same section that we've just heard from the brass. Now let's join that timpani part to the lower brass and see if you can hear the extra impact, punch and drive that the timpani gives the brass. So I've zoomed out to show the whole orchestra in the section that we've just heard with the brass and the timpani. There's a lot going on. You can see there's so many black lines and squiggles giving lots and lots of information to the players in the orchestra. See if you can hear that bass line played by the lower brass and the timpani and some other instruments as well, whilst also listening to how the instruments on top weave and scream over the top. Rimsky-Korsakov, the composer of Scheherazade, also used the timpani to add impact and emphasis in his writing. And we're going to listen to a section now which hopefully illustrates that. In this section, the timpani play a part which goes something like this. Dum, drum, dum, drum. They sound a lot better than me, obviously, but that hopefully will give your ear something out to listen out for as you watch and listen to the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra playing this section of Scheherazade. Now, if you were to go onto the additional resources page of the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra website, the one that's just off Sea, Voyages and Hope, you'd be able to watch the whole of that video of Frank conducting the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra. And maybe if you were to do that, see if you could spot all of the extracts that I've pointed out today, as well as enjoying the whole performance of that terrific piece of music. I really hope that you've enjoyed this behind the scenes look at how orchestras are put together and how composers like me use technology to help bring our creations to life. I'm really looking forward to our final rehearsal tomorrow morning when we'll be looking at the last bits and pieces in Out in the Blue. Remember, you can always use that YouTube playlist of my teaching videos to get some extra practice and even to go ahead into the verse 2 and bridge of Out in the Blue. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Thanks ever so much. Bye.